And we are live. I'm very sorry that I'm a few seconds late. The reason is my computer decided to run out of power. And I went, oh, that's easy. I'll just plug it in. The lead's normally where it is. Except it wasn't. I had to do all kinds of running around to find the lead. But there you go. What can I do? Now, I'm flying solo today because Russ is out and about doing his celebrancy thing. Greetings. I'm Neil Longking of New Malden, the rough bit. Russ always likes to call me the King of New Malden. It's hardly an accolade, but there we go. Yeah, we're live from Southwest London, but and on to the subject of mental health and well-being. So we'll do a few hellos. Then we're going to have a really good hour of talking about a subject that's very close to me, actually, because I can relate to this too, burnout. Ooh, yeah, that little gem. Relatively recent diagnosis. I don't know what people thought it was before that. Probably some judgmental label like being lazy or something like that. I don't know, but it's a relatively recent new understanding, in my understanding, in the world of psychology. So we'll be exploring that with a couple of fantastic guests today, one of which who I'm mindful of her time, and the irony is not lost, burnout rushing around. So I'd like to get her on straight away. Welcome.
Hi, Neil. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And how are you?
Really good. Yeah, really good today. Thanks. How about you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Feeling relatively relaxed, but I've been reading some rather shocking statistics about burnout. I mean, am I right in saying it's a relatively new diagnosis, relatively new understanding?
As you mentioned earlier, not a new thing, but it's definitely something that we have noticed on our radar at Mental Health UK as something that is increasing. Certainly people are talking about it more, and our survey has shown that a lot more people are aware of the signs and symptoms of burnout.
Do you want to talk to us a little bit about what they are?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, just to give you a definition of burnout, it's not considered a medical condition, rather a syndrome, and it's a stress response. Really, it's how we respond to chronic, unmanaged stress. So it can lead to physical and mental health decline because our bodies are in a constant state of heightened sort of stress response, and we don't give ourselves time to step back, rest, recharge and recover before going sort of at the next challenge that life throws at us. So to answer your question as to what signs that the people may be experiencing this are, certainly exhaustion is one of them. There's also a feeling of detachment from the work that you're doing, and often people report feeling self-doubt. So I can't do this, I'm not good enough. So each one of those, I think most people could relate to them at one point or another. It's when all three of them come together and at a high frequency that we might start to say that they are heading towards burnout.
Because I had an experience of burnout, and yes, I recognise those symptoms. Dead eyes, lights are on but no one's home. I suppose that's the detachment thing, isn't it? That was one symptom I had. Mm-hmm. It was a feeling in the body of it was a weird kind of, not quite depression, but kind of a sinky sort of feeling, as if the body is saying, look, just stop. And my mind's going, I can't. And the body's going, gonna make you. You know, it was almost like that. And kind of a paradox in the sense that I knew I had a lot to do, which led to the burnout, but I didn't have the energy to do any of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that classic signs of burnout and other words that we hear to describe it are feeling hopeless, overwhelmed, drained, I think you said.
All of those, and very disempowered as well. It was a situation which, no matter how much I'd put my head up against it and locked horns with it, it kept on beating me, and there was nothing I could do, and it felt eventually absolutely futile. So I guess I'm not alone in that.
Sadly not. I mean, the survey did show that there were 20% of the people we spoke to have taken time off work in the last year for poor mental health caused by stress. So it's certainly very real, according to the statistics. And anecdotally, in my role as in the workplace team at Mental Health UK, organisations that we speak to will all nod their head when you say the word burnout. People know that it's real. Mm-hmm.
So these are the signs and symptoms, I suppose. Are you describing the signs and symptoms leading up to it? Is there a kind of a threshold where it goes, okay, this is more than pre-burnout, this is full-on burnout? What pushes it over the line?
Yeah, you make a really good point. So the thing about burnout is it's not something that will happen to you suddenly.
No.
It's a very gradual process. It creeps up on you, and the danger is
it's an insidious little bugger. It really is. And because of our Western conditioning, we all think, oh, we'll drink another coffee, plow on through, which is the worst thing we can do. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's also, in response to that, there isn't a definitive, this is when you're actually burning out. And why we want to raise the awareness and open the conversation up about burnout and chronic stress in the workplace is so that people can start to identify when they are showing signs. So it's when you find those early signs that you need to take action. Like extreme burnout is mental and physical exhaustion, and if you hit that point, you're in proper ill health territory. So what we want to do is start people talking about when it's starting. This if it might be for them that it might be they're having palpitations and that's their warning sign. It might be that they're suddenly not able to get to sleep at night like they used to. There's a sign. And it may be that you talk to your colleagues or a loved one, a close friend, to say, if you see me doing this, call me out on it. It's sometimes you're the last person to see it.
Very much so. And I think with people as well, because for me, I'm just talking about my own personal experience, and perhaps this is a guy thing more than a girl thing, I don't know, and correct me if I'm wrong, or perhaps it's across the board, but I felt that I should have all the answers. I should have absolutely everything sorted out for the rest of my life and know exactly what answer. But the thing I was up against almost had no answers, and I had no idea of the way it was going to unfold. So you're in this kind of cloud of unknowing as well, and this kind of, I suppose, almost toxic shame for not knowing better, even though any outside observer could go, my God, Neil, you were dealing with a man. It's very easy for other people to see. So I like your point about, talking to a confident. Well, we've got something on in the background.
No, I haven't. Is there a...
Yeah, we got a little bit of an echo. Do you have your volume up on the computer or something like that?
I have. Would you like me to turn up a bit more, or
no? If anything, just down a touch, as long as you can hear me, please.
Is that a little bit better?
Turn mine down a touch as well. There we go. That's better.
Great.
There we go. Fantastic.
Thanks for telling me.
No problem at all. No, it's just good stuff. We don't want to miss a bit of it. And what is the attitude are you finding in your capacity at Mental Health UK with workplaces understanding this, and even better, putting in things to either stop it or prevent it?
So we're very privileged, or I am in my role, to be able to go and speak to all sorts of organisations, all types of sectors, with all types of demographics, and we know that there's not a one size fits all when it comes to managing individuals' mental health. But we do know, for example, that line managers play a really, really important part in helping to create a mentally healthy culture. That's what we speak about most of all. We want workplaces to feel safe, where if you feel that you're starting to struggle, you can open up and ask for help, and that it's acceptable and it's not stigmatized and it's not seen as a sign of weakness, as you alluded to, Neil. This has changed a lot. I certainly think, in my experience of over 20 years talking to workplaces, there is a lot more of an acknowledgement that we do all have mental health all of the time, and it slides up and down the scale from day to day. So when we hear, as an example, line managers or senior leadership opening up about their own mental health struggles, which is by no means essential because it is a private thing, but it's very powerful when that does happen, because it's giving other people permission and it's letting the workplace know that we're all human, and much as, 10 years ago you left your private life at home, post-pandemic people are acknowledging that that's very hard to do.
And it's about time too, isn't it? Because for so many years, Claire, it's been, mental health has been seen as a stigma. It's been stigmatized, like you say, and people are just simply embarrassed to talk about it. It's like the dirty secret that you shove under the carpet. But you make the very good point. And not only the very good point, the very obvious truth is that we all have this mental domain to look after all the time. You don't leave it at home. It's not like something I can unplug and leave me nice, going to work like a robot, plug it in when I get back, leave it on charge, get a computer reprogramming it. But we haven't got that technology yet. So it needs ongoing looking after. And seeing as we spend so much time in the workplace, and of course, it will work as a virtuous circle because, as you say, a healthy line managers can make a big contribution, or whatever system's in place. If there is a system, a healthy workforce is a productive one, surely.
Oh, absolutely. And I, to give it a more positive angle on this, we know that good work is important for positive mental health. Work gives us a sense of purpose, it connects us with other people, and it gives us a source of income. So we shouldn't be looking at work, we shouldn't just be helping employees to survive at work. They should be places where people can thrive. So it's really, it is important. Work can and should be good for us, not just something we just survive. It's really important that.
What do you love about your job so much? I get the sense that you really love what you do. What do you love about your job?
Oh, I do love what I do. I think variety is always good. Talking to so many different people. I think when you work for a mental health charity as well, people are very friendly when you work for a charity, and people do share their stories, and I find that really humbling to hear what people have been through, how they've coped, how they've been helped, and no day is the same. And if we can just reassure people that they're not on their own when it comes to mental health, I think that.
This is the thing. I mean, when I shared my experience relatively publicly, because I thought, this is what I do. I'm a radio presenter anyway, and if I'm going to be of value to people, the least I can do is tell them the truth of what was going on. And not one person, well, maybe one, but not one person really was an idiot about it. That there was, I had great support all round, which is fantastic. So, and I can't see that I'm particularly lucky or special or different. I think maybe just the time is right that people are, and if someone that you look up to, that you respect, or someone that has a semi-public voice like me is willing to be open, like the celebrities, David Beckham with his OCD, willing to be open and go, actually, me too. Because the very thing about any kind of mental condition I discovered, and I know this from experience, is it feels so isolating. So you're not the only one, but it feels like you are. You might as well be, because it feels so much like it. It's the nature of mental health conditions to be isolating, isn't it? And it's really the last thing that you need. You need that right safe space, that right support structure, whoever and whatever that may be, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And as an example, so over the years I've worked in lots of, or gone to work with different sectors. The construction industry, for example, I've been to many conferences or sort of well-being days with with construction organisations. People used to, take a skirt around me as Mental Health UK or anything that suggested mental health or counselling. I went to a well-being day only a month ago, thinking it'd be interesting to see if I have any conversations, and I was blown away by how many people came over to say, oh, they're really looking after us. And I said, who do you talk to if you're struggling? And they go, oh, John's always there, he's always saying, how are you, mate? And he's talked about his mental health, and it's amazingly powerful. For one person to open up, it's very brave. And I would urge anyone who's thinking about opening up and telling their story at work, you don't have to share everything, but and do know where you can go for support if you're suddenly inundated with lots of people coming up to you and saying, me too, I'm struggling, because that can be very draining. But there are support services in place for so many workplaces, including employee assistance programs. Don't underestimate those. They're 24-hour helplines. They're free and they're confidential. Many of them offer access to structured counselling that the workplace pays for anonymously. It's a sort of
wow. Now I knew nothing of this. Where can people find that? Is there a website we can put on screen or something?
If your organisation has an employee assistance programme, I guess HR, your line manager, your intranet should have the details. So organisations buy those for their staff. Definitely Mental Health UK's website has a lot of free downloadable resources, such as how to have a supportive conversation around mental health, what is burnout, how to recognise it, and what you can do. And if I can give you the the website for Mental Health UK. It's www.mentalhealth-uk.org, and that's where you can also find our burnout report.
What sectors do you find the most burnout in? Is it true to say it's mainly in the mixing my words up, caring professions, the caring professions?
I don't know about hairdressers, but I know that
they probably get all the stress because everyone tells the hairdressers everything.
Well, yeah, yes, absolutely. Well, I mean, I know from research some of the sectors that sort of jump out when it comes to burnout are small business owners, teachers, NHS workers, lawyers. That they're some of the ones that we have had sort of flagged up as being particularly prone to it. But that doesn't.
Why? Is it because there's very high expectations of them?
I think it's different reasons. I mean, I think small business owners, they have limited resources, and it's very much all on them rather than perhaps spreading the stress. There's also a lot of information coming out now about parental burnout, being managing the demands of looking after children with a workload, and I think post-pandemic, because we are now, a lot of us are working from home, this hybrid working is really blurring the boundaries between work and home. And whereas in the past we would you have the commute home or the walk home or the drive home from work to sort of decompress and go into your safe sanctuary of your home, that's much more blurred now, as we have our emails in our in our back pocket, in our phones, and our phones are beeping at us constantly to remind us there's more work to do. And this always on culture is, I think certainly being detrimental to people's mental health.
And what should people do to relax? Is it just an answer like whatever relaxes you the most? Is it? I suppose there's no one size fits all. Should we all take up meditation? I don't know, kickboxing. I don't know, petting the cat.
Well, I mean, as you allude to, it's what works for you. So I think what's really important, as we said at the beginning, it creeps up when you burn out. So therefore, the steps we need to take to avoid it need to be little and often. You can't just save it all up for 2 weeks a year when you go on annual leave. There has to be little breaks constantly to allow this rest and recharge before we go in for the next presentation, the next deadline, the next
this is the thing. It's like lots of little bits rather than, I mean, because if you think about it, what you said there, that makes perfect sense. It's crazy. Save it all up as if our bodies were designed to work that way. Work like full out for 50 weeks of the year, but 2 weeks we can do all the recharging we need to for the next year. That's nonsense. And yet so many people will try and live that way and then wonder why they get ill on holiday.
Absolutely. And I would add to that, you may have heard of duvet days, where companies are saying, well, there's a few days a year where you can just say, I'm taking this off because I'm so exhausted. I think my challenge to that would be, it's all very well to go off and recharge, but if you're coming back into a workplace that is still rising workload, that has got to change as well. It's not all down to the individual. Organisations need to listen to what their employees are saying, and if the company is making unreasonable demands, that's something that needs to change. You can't expect employees.
And what would count as an unreasonable demand, and how should people best approach that without the fear of speaking out and losing their jobs?
This is the $1 million question, because we know that not everybody has a supportive line manager, and as I may have said earlier, this message of looking after your mental health has got to be genuine, and it's got to come from the top. We need senior leadership buy-in that looking after the mental health of your staff is important, where there is a culture where you can speak up and say, I am struggling with my workload, and to speak to those who might not kind of get the importance of mental health yet, which is, I'm sorry to hear that sometimes that is the case. What's really important, it's a healthy workplace is more productive. So this isn't just an ethical issue about doing the right thing when it comes to mental health at work. It makes good business sense. When people go off work for poor mental health, the costs are enormous. It puts all the pressure onto the remaining workforce to pick up what that person can no longer do, and it's a false economy to not look after.
A massive false economy. It'd be interesting. I don't know if there are any figures on it, but it'd be interesting to see some figures on it, because if there are still a few, shall we say, Neanderthals out there that don't understand mental health, and oh no, work harder, crack the whip a bit harder, it'd be nice for them to see that they're actually shooting themselves in the foot royally.
Absolutely, and if you push yourself constantly into this strain and stretch position, your performance declines. So it's not the case of the harder you work, the more you get done. You start making mistakes. You make mistakes, you lose creativity, and no one wins if you go down.
Compassion fatigue, does that play into your work at all as well? I imagine it's connected to burnout. Sorry, after you.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So you mentioned the caring professions early on, and yes, there is. And I'm going to use another metaphor about putting your gas mask on, oxygen mask. This is really important, and you can't underestimate that. You have to look after yourself in order to be able to look after other people. So yeah,
I agree, and it just makes so much sense, and it's an often used metaphor and a very good one. But you can't, if you've got no oxygen, you can help nobody. Absolutely. You have to connect to your own well-being first before you can overflow to other people. And most people think, or some people think, well, when I get it all done, when I've worked myself to the bone, when I feel really resentful because I'm doing more than everyone else, then it'll be my turn. And it tends not to work that way. But what about the less enlightened amongst us that might say, and I think I know the answer to this, but I'd love to hear it from a professional such as yourself. Oh, that's selfish, putting yourself first. Oh, no, you should be thinking about other people, not yourself. What do you say to that?
Well, I think exactly what you think I'm going to say, that it doesn't work that way.
No,
I think I think the people who are more prone to burnout are those people who still hold that belief that I have to keep going. And we know that the results from the survey show that if you do that, you are going to decline, and you'll be no use to anyone. So self-care is no longer an indulgence; it's an essential. And it will have knock-on effects if you're burnt out. It's going to be the ripple effects for friends, family, work colleagues are going to. So it's not selfish. It's doing something for you, and other people will benefit as well.
Now, I got an email today saying that you were booked in for just 20 minutes. Have I got that right? Is it quite a short interview today?
That's what's on my schedule. If that works for you, yes.
It works for me. Oh, you're very welcome to stay. You're very welcome to stay and stick around for a bit. But if the irony is not lost. If you've got a busy schedule,
I've got another one to do at actually 12:25. So I probably do have to go. I'm really sorry. It's our launch of our report's gone out today, and so it's ironically.
Well, that gives you about 2 or 3 minutes to go and have a short recharging break. There we go.
Thank you. Wise words, and I've really enjoyed it. So thank you very much.
Yeah, keep in touch with us, Claire, as well. It's been lovely talking to you, and good luck with your work. Fascinating to talk to you. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you, Neil.
Good afternoon.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Oh, what a lovely lady. Claire Neal from Mental Health UK.com. Just take that one off the screen and we'll pop over to your comments. Barry Allen, bit late, sorry. So you should be. You just missed the segment on how I have the best sex ever, Barry. Sorry, we only do it once every 10 years or so. You have to wait. Can't get rid of this darn cough. Apologies for not being here last Monday, by the way. I was all shivery and fluey and rotten. And feeling much better today, as you can see. Now, let's go back and do some of your comments. Kimmy Lashmar, hello from France. Bonsoir. What part of France are you in, Kimmy? Hope you're having a nice time. Right, Paul Carriage, thank you for sharing. I have to admit, I'm struggling at the moment. 2 funerals last week. Oh, I had a funeral last week. They're never fun, are they? And just when I'm getting over that, I'm informed yesterday my beloved Auntie Ellen passed away on Saturday night. Oh, gosh. But hey, one of my closest friends met up with me yesterday. She insisted that we go and feed the birds in Crystal Palace Park. And oh boy, that and having a good chat was so therapeutic. Like our lovely lady just said, it's whatever works for you. Feeding the birds in Crystal Palace Park, go and feed the birds. Having a chat with you, mate, helps you feel better. Go and do exactly that. Go and do exactly that. Really, really, whatever works. I read a really fascinating book by a guy. It was called something like Play It Away or something like that. And his solution to burnout was to play. It was the whole phenomenon of fun and play. And there's been quite a lot of science. I know Catherine Price does a lot of work on fun. And I don't mean sitting there scrolling on your phone or doom scrolling, as she likes to call it. Proper fun that engages you, fun where the hours can pass, fun when you're in a flow state. Time just seems to warp a little bit and you think, oh my God, I've been doing this for hours. That's really refreshing. Anything that energizes you and helps you feel better in any way can only be a good thing, right? And Paul, I'm glad you're feeling better, and you're certainly tuned into the right radio station for talking about health and well-being. We should have another guest coming up fairly soon. Kimmy says, I worry about my daughter, but how much rest should you take and time out? Really as much as you need or want, really, until you feel better. I'm not trying to give you a kind of a avoiding answer there, Kim. Right, let's get one of our other comments here. My daughter did a course and is a mental health first aider, but I'm sure she's overstressed. Can't wait for us to go on holiday next month. Well, maybe, and then that's the irony, isn't it? But that's the oxygen mask analogy, and a mental health first aider would give themselves mental health first aid first. And then in that overflow state, be able to have plenty to share with other people. Just depleting yourself for the sake of other people may seem very heroic, but number one, it's not. Number two, it doesn't work. It's not that it hasn't been tried. Ryan Ward, thank you for doing this. I struggle from depression and chronic pain. Well, we're sorry to hear that, Ryan. And I hope you find any treatments on the horizon for you. Anything you've been exploring that's you found to be helpful? Do feel free to share here. We have shared some. We do talk about depression quite a lot here. I know it can affect us all very easily. I mean, I had a day feeling under the weather, feeling just like everything was bleak last week, and it wasn't. The world hadn't changed. It was just me, and but feeling a bit better now. All right, Dave Sleep, burnout of MH, I guess that's mental health professionals, is high too, especially when employers don't appreciate the ethical guidelines for mental health professionals. The key is creating the conditions for positive mental health. Mental health reactions are not sustainable. Now, I like this. So I guess by a reaction, it's just like a quick, oh, right, that's happened, so quick, move quickly in that direction. Stick a Band-Aid on it, hope it'll go away. But it's not, because unless you get to the source of it, unless you get to the cause, the effects are gonna keep on coming, aren't they? Until you pull out the root cause of it. Which is what I wonder. Why is life so stressful? That's a fair question. How have we, as a group of people, a group of human beings, created a life that is so full of stress, one way or another? How have we done that? Why do we do that? What are we trying to prove? If it could be easier, wouldn't it be? Is it a crime for things to be easy? I'm not making a case for laying on your bed and doing nothing all day, but does struggle have to be a component of everything that we do? Does everything have to be a fight? Does everything have to be a struggle? And where did we learn that idea from? Who taught us that? Who taught them? And who taught them? And then you go back in the hall of mirrors. But what if just playing with thoughts here, but what if it was possible to make another choice, a choice for ease rather than struggle, letting it be easy? Sun doesn't struggle to shine, grass doesn't struggle to grow. It just does. It just kind of follows the harmony and the patterns of whatever it's in and nature and does it. So just wondering. Interesting. Maybe I'm getting a bit philosophical. Your comments, please. Let's have a look. Graham Pack, being tasteful as always. It's not the cough that carries you off, it's the coffin they carry you off in. Graham, you really should come and do 5 minutes on the comedy circuit, mate. I've got to try out this Sunday with some new material. I had a fun gig in a pub over the weekend. It's different in a pub. It really, excuse me, it really is. It's because in a pub, people have only kind of well, they come for the pub. They haven't really come to see comedy. So the attention you get, you have to really, really work for it. In a club, they're all sitting there facing you, and it's a lot easier to get the attention. But it went pretty well. Graham, with inflation, it costs more than tuppence a bag to feed the birds. Thank you for that. Kimmy, Claire was right. That's all well and good taking time off, but if you're busy when you go back to work, right? Kimmy says, in France, workers can switch emails off in the evening. No one emails. God, that's a good idea. Excuse me. That's a great idea. If you could stop your phone dinging all weekend, unless it was from, I don't know, your kids or a hot date, one of the two. Ryan, thank you. Well, Ryan, you're very welcome on the show. I haven't seen your name here before, but you're very, very welcome. We broadcast Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with myself and Russ Kane and a host of others. It's all about mental health and well-being and all that sort of stuff. I too have suffered from depression. I know how it feels, and I also know it's possible to feel better, and you can, and you will, my friend. I'm sure. Maybe just tuning in here is a step in the right direction. If at the very least you could feel that you're not alone, because I said that earlier on the show. It just feels so isolating. If you've got any kind of mental condition, you feel like you're the only one in the world, in your own little bubble of misery, and nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing could be further from the truth. If you look at the statistics, it's an irony that with technology we're more connected than we've ever been, and yet we sometimes feel more separate than we've ever been. Perhaps the technology that was meant to connect us has separated us even more. I don't know. More comments. Dave Sleep, the trifecta of human balancing. One side, knowledge, understanding, and experience. On the other side, awareness, resilience, and empowerment. Okay. So you mean 3 on each side. So a double trifecta. Okay, I'm just being pedantic. One side, knowledge. Let's break this down. Knowledge, understanding, and experience. Okay. On the other side, awareness, resilience, and empowerment. Okay. Knowledge can be gained from many places, I guess. Well, of course. Understanding, that's down to the individual, and based on personal experience. That is another thing, of course, as well. We've all got our experiences in life. The best ones we celebrate, the others we learn from. Now, awareness, this word comes up quite a lot. And I think awareness is the key to everything, because if you're not aware of something, you can't change it. If constantly you're saying the problem's out there, the problem's out there, the problem's out there. I'm not saying you're the problem, but I'm saying it's a lot easier to work with yourself, really, than try and wait for the world to change so you can feel better. Have a good day, and thanks. You're very welcome, Ryan. You don't have to go. We're here till 1 o'clock. I don't know if we've got another guest. If not, we can just talk along together for the rest of the show. Any more comments? Anyone watching experienced burnout, which as Claire defined is absolute mental and physical exhaustion? Yeah. And what did you do about it? Because for me, my mind needed to slow down, but it was going even faster. I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to do that, I've got to do that. I've got to think a year in advance, and 2 years in advance, and 10 years in advance. And that was the very opposite of what I wanted to do. It really needed a bit of mindfulness. No, just be here now. Just be here now, and just act, because we've only got them now, haven't we? I can't take a breath for 10 years' time. I can't take a breath for 10 seconds' time, for goodness sake. I can only do it now, just about, as the case may be, with this funny throat. 35% experienced extreme stress in the past year. 49% of people say their employer has nothing in place to counter this. 54% of people have done unpaid overtime and worked over their contracted hours. Why would they do that? Is it because they feel that if they don't do it, nobody else will, and it's a sense of loyalty, perhaps misguided, perhaps not, that it's just all got to get done? Is it they don't trust anyone else to do it? Do they feel their job would be threatened if they don't do it? All of these need addressing, I suppose, and none of them are conducive to a good workplace, are they? Of course they're not. Of course they're not. I mean, the workplace that Russ and I used to work at, there was nothing in place there for mental health. It wasn't even talked about. And in some ways, it was almost actively encouraged. I think there was a certain school of thought in some of the higher echelons of management there that the more you could worry people and make them feel bad and fearful, the in some perverse way, the more productive and better they would be, which is utter nonsense. But perhaps that attitude is more pervasive than we would know. I don't know, but it didn't work. I've been reading some case studies as well, and one chap quoted, "I had to be the one to have it all together." So it wasn't a chap, it was a lady, in lockdown, being pulled in all directions by the directions of the pandemic, as to a degree we all were, weren't we? Because none of us knew what the hell was going on. I had to be the one to have it all together when I was being pulled in all directions. And that's the thing. It's almost kind of, you think I have to be the strong one. I'm the head of this, I'm the head of that, I run the house, I run that, whatever. I have to have it all together at all times, even if I'm being pulled, frazzled in a zillion directions. And, I can understand that. Anyway, I mean, no, I don't think we were designed for that kind of, I won't say ridiculous pressure, but it's that constant undermining, constant, death by 1,000 cuts, maybe. It's not a big cut, but when you've got a few thousand of them, gets a little more difficult. Graham says, my 9-month-old granddaughter got hit with 3 viruses and was in hospital from Tuesday until last night. You need to take it easy with that cough. I'm all right, thank you, Graham. It's just more tickly and annoying, a bit like me, than anything else. Not a big deal. So what shall we talk about? On Wednesday, we've got an interesting guest called Mike Nicholson, who's going to be talking about something called progressive masculinity. So there we go. You thought, man was all about grr and grr. Well, apparently there's more to it than that. And Mike Nicholson will be talking in detail about that on Wednesday. So I'm looking forward to that. I don't know if we're going to get our other guest now. It was a chap called Brian, who was mentioned in the Daily Star today, actually. But I don't see him in the green room. So I will just fill and we will just chat. But I'd like to talk a little more about burnout, the workplace, really old workplace. Weak leadership will always grow a fear-based environment with excessive dominance and control. Yes, and there was an awful lot of competition between the people that worked there. I don't want to go as far as say divide and conquer. That's going a little bit extreme, but there was certainly that culture of fear, without any doubt at all. And it's just not. What's the opposite? A culture of inclusion, the culture of, well, I think Claire said it. If people feel that they are, and it does make such difference to people. If people feel they're making a difference, even in a small way, even in a volunteer role, their levels of well-being go right up. Clever scientists have measured the brain chemistry of people that do altruistic things, and they've noticed that people's well-being, sense of being well-being goes up. And I'm not saying spend the whole life giving to others. That's out of balance. That's over-giving. But if you feel you're making a difference in a workplace capacity, if I feel that I'm making even a small difference with this show, then that'll improve my well-being. You guys, you tuned in for a reason. You want to talk about this subject. You're here to talk about mental health and well-being. And hopefully I'm, doing a fairly good job of facilitating it, but that'll make me feel good, And perhaps there isn't a limit to well-being. Perhaps there's enough well-being for everybody. Perhaps we just need to tune into it. Perhaps we just need to believe that, excuse me, we're worthy of it, that it's a desirable thing, it's worth having, and then pursue it, and then just decide to have it for ourselves. Maybe it is literally just a choice. What then? What then, my friends? What then? Any more comments? Let's go back through, seeing if I've missed anything. Give us in some Valérie Sousson, France, back on Wednesday. That sounds very nice. Got no idea where that is. Is that the south of France? I've literally no idea where that is. The last French experience I had was Martinique, which is a French Caribbean island, when I was away with my daughter. And I have learned the French don't like the English anywhere in the world, including in the Caribbean. Apart from one very cute waitress, but apart from that, they didn't like us at all. What more, people? Stick some comments on the screen. What would you like to talk about? We've got some statistics here on burnout. What do you do for your well-being? What do you do? listening right now for your well-being. And again, it doesn't have to be something difficult. Paul said he went to the park and fed the ducks, or fed the birds in the park, and had a good chit chat with a friend. Maybe that's all that's needed. Maybe that was all that was needed then. What do you do? What do you do for your well-being? I'm going to sit here in silence until someone comments. It's going to get very awkward. Graham says the last French experience I had was eating a baguette and a croissant last week. Well, that's probably about as kind of French as you can get, Graham. But congratulations for that, and I hope that's broadened your cultural horizons. Kimi Lashmar, I think a lot of workplaces are short of staff. Okay, but why? Why would that be? If there's so many jobs, why are they jobs that do you think, Kimi, that nobody wants to do? Or perhaps the culture is toxic. I don't know. Graham Pack, I write daft comments to MRS for my well-being. Well, we did say whatever works for you, Graham. But if that floats your boat and helps you feel better, I wouldn't be the one to complain about how you get your well-being. Kimmy's talking now. The best thing I did was tell my old job in November where to shove their job. Very well done, Kimmy. Very well done indeed. You have a DM. You texted me privately. Is this on the phone or? Let's have a look. Oh, I like this. Thank you very much, Dave. I'll be in contact about that. That's fantastic. Is that something you'd like to come on and talk about, Dave? Want to have a little chat about that? Because other guest is going to show. So I got the spinning wheel of doom there for a moment. Dave, did you want to come on and have a chat about that? I don't know if that's for my eyes only or whether to be publicly broadcast. So I'll wait for your comments in the if you want and clear. All right, brilliant. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to pop a link, Dave, in the chat. And if you'd like to just click that, my friend, and that will get you straight in. Okay, now don't anyone else click it, otherwise you'll end up in as well. In fact, I can't control whether you get in or not. So no playing knockdown ginger, clicking the link and running away. But Dave, if you want to give that a click for us, and we'll see you in the room. This is something called the Psychological Hive. So I'm intrigued. So we'll find out about that in just a moment. I'll see Dave in the green room and we'll get him on and we'll have a chat. Has Dave got the number for the cute French waitress? No, Graham, I have the number for the cute French waitress and you can keep your paws off. She wasn't French. Well, she was French Caribbean, but she was just lovely. But they really didn't like us in Martinique very, very much at all. And it felt it felt like being in Paris. It felt like being in a big city. All the other Caribbean islands were Caribbean. And it was just lovely. They had the locals and the fun buses and the parties and a real local vibe and the houses built into the mountains. It was just beautiful. But Martinique, it had like tower blocks. It was almost like a business hub. It didn't feel like a Caribbean island. It felt like commerciality had landed and made a bit of a mess when it landed. If I'm going to be honest with you, didn't have the traditional kind of Caribbean vibe. Okay. So we're just waiting for Dave. Anytime you want, Dave, just pop in the green room and I'll get you straight on. Mike Nicholson we're talking to on Wednesday about progressive masculinity. I edited a client's podcast and he was on it and I thought that is really interesting. Got to get the guy on the show to talk more about that. And of course, Russ will be back on Friday. I won't be here Friday because I don't do Fridays. Russ and Phil Dave and Chantal, the TV queen. on Friday. So we're really looking forward to that. Dave is just loading up the laptop as we speak, ladies and gentlemen, as we speak. I've decided to go on a health kick from today. No punchlines, but I've been very well behaved today. I've had my sourdough and I've had my eggs and I've had my supplements, and I'm going to go exercising later. Yes, me. I will. No, you can laugh. You can laugh. Oh, I'll tell you what did get me mercilessly ribbed. I was doing a comedy gig on Saturday, and this was announced on Radio Jackie. And my co-presenter said, "What time are you on?" And all I said was, "After the Morris Men." I was expecting a little bit of mutual support from my fellow sister in the broadcasting field, but no, she laughed and mocked me mercilessly, I tell you, mercilessly. And I've been ribbed by my friends and family ever since. Morris Men sing. Did you know that? Because they did their dancing, and then they have a little sing-song. It was most bizarre. And you can always hear them coming because they've got bells on their legs. A Morris Man, that's one thing about Morris Men. They can never creep up on you because you'd always hear them coming. So Dave is loading up his laptop, and I'm more than happy to take some more of your comments if you'd like to. Anything you've got to say? Got some good comments here. Robert Van Buren, I hope you're feeling better, my friend. Paul, we heard from you earlier. Hello to you, and I'm glad you're feeling better too. Ryan, I don't know if you're still with us. Morris dancing, that rings a bell. Don't you start, Kim? Don't, honestly. I've had nothing but this. I've had nothing but ribbing for the last 2 days over this. What is so funny about following Morris Men? Okay. I'm surprised how many men are still called Morris. Well, I don't know if any of them are actually called Morris. They're with their bells and their sticks and singing and strange uniforms. And it's just a little bit bizarre, personally. Just a little bit bizarre. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Dave Sleet. Hello, how are you?
How you doing, fella?
I'm good, thank you. A spontaneous guest. Good afternoon.
Hey, look, I will take the opportunity to support you guys at any chance. So,
I appreciate it.
You got the space, and then I'm happy to come and help along.
And us, you too, Dave, and us, you too. It's highly symbiotic. What is the psychological hive? Pray tell.
Okay, so the psychological hive is a mindset that I developed over the last 20 years. And it's based on the observations of the most successful people and the most successful companies.
Right.
So when we think about those two groups, there are some things that really do stand out that the rest of us will always kind of miss, kind of achieving that potential. And business courses and personal development situations very rarely delve into what are those elements that exist.
Well, you know what this reminds me of? I'm thinking of Napoleon Hill with his Think and Grow Rich, where he went and did all that research of the successful people around the world and then brought it back and made the book out of it. Is it a similar thing to that? Or?
Yeah, pretty much. So I spent the best part of 20 years looking at what was success. I'd been brought up in the business arena around the work of Stephen Covey and 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah, I know.
And that was really
a classic in the field.
Yeah, and it was really the first kind of grab the attention of businesses, etc. What the psychological hive does is look at the connectivity between the elements of success. Because we can all have elements that just don't connect. And we see it with networking drives, we see it with business mergers, etc., where people are building connections that are dependent on the success of those connections for ourselves.
Say that again. People are building connections that are dependent on... Say that again.
They're dependent on the success of those connections supporting our success.
Right. So everything's symbiotic, and that's how it needs to be. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that's not the way the most successful businesses and people operate,
Oh, go on.
because they are successful through the connections of their own elements, and they connect with businesses and other individuals that think the same way. They're not dependent on the success of somebody else or the consistency of somebody else for their own success.
Well, that would sound like a bit of a dangerous game if you think about it, because if you're putting your well-being outside of you and dependent on anything, all that has to happen is that a goalpost to move, that anything outside change for whatever reason,
And then that impacts on you, right?
and then the whole thing collapses. It's not unlike people we meet that have put, I don't know, invested them whole selves into, let's say, a relationship and neglected other areas of their life.
Yep.
And then when that relationship sadly goes or changes, they feel like they've got nothing left.
Yeah. And that's exactly what, when you're saying earlier, why do we struggle? We struggle because of that external dependency. And we are groomed into that external dependency. And, you know, the analogy that I use in presentations is a bit like we're building a bike. You know, we are one wheel, and we build a bike because we're told that we need to have something else there to support us, to keep us upright. So we build all of these connections that hold that bike together, but we're dependent on those connections working constantly. The most successful people, the most successful...
And indeed, to continue your analogy, maintaining those connections too, you know, keeping it nice and well oiled and moving, because bikes can rust. So can connections, I would imagine.
Right. And this is where, when something goes wrong in one of those connections, the bike falls apart.
Right.
Okay. What the most successful businesses, what the most successful people do is connect everything to their point of focus. It's internal, not external dependency. So they raise their awareness, their understanding, all of those things that I pointed out in the trifactor balance.
Yeah, I'm going to put that back on the screen.
What they do is they have that balance for themselves. So that knowledge, understanding, and experience is balanced by the awareness, the resilience, and the empowerment that comes from the knowledge, understanding, and experience.
I almost get a sense, a visual, if you like, of a table with 6 very strong legs.
Mm-hmm.
And if one of the legs came away, it wouldn't matter.
That's pretty much a really good way of kind of showcasing.
Compared to the other way, where everyone's put everything on top of this table, which has only got one leg.
Yeah.
And then that moves and the whole thing collapses, right? So again, it begins with the self, with personal development, but a particular kind of personal development, because you said not all of it butters all the parsnips, as it were.
Yeah, this is about those individuals that have that self-awareness. They build that understanding of how everything works. They learn their craft predominantly. You know, I mean, we've seen in the last 2 weeks what the power of the arts can do in this country. You know, and I don't think we need to elaborate too much on the fact that if it takes a drama, which is art, to showcase and galvanize understanding.
Oh God, I know what you mean, yeah.
Right? Then there is something in all of us that is galvanized through understanding. But the knowledge of what that is and why that's there is just as important. We needed to know what happened in that situation in order for us to have a true understanding. It's not like the story hasn't been around. It's not like we haven't been told what was going on, but we didn't actually connect to the understanding what it was until it was shown to us in that format.
Do you think all things, all big leaps forward in human awareness, perception, do you think it takes a big contrast, a big scandal like that? Do we have to go through hell to get to heaven? Or are there easier ways, shall we say?
I think there are easier ways if we're prepared to take the small steps.
Right.
But that means evolution. And if we embrace evolution, then yes, we can get there relatively quickly, relatively easily. But we've been groomed over generations that change is scary. Change we don't like. We want to stay where we are.
And a
Thank you
struggle.
very much.
And a struggle as well, and painful. I think it is. I mean, because there's a lot of people going through a lot of change at the moment, but I think some people, me included at times, have just clung on. Better the devil you know, maybe.
Yeah, and this is what we're taught. But one of the things that has always struck me is every single day, from the day we're born to the day we're no longer here, we are changing. Every single day we change.
Every moment.
Every interaction changes us because we are human beings. We're social creatures. We impact on other things and other people.
And we're evolving beings as well, or we should be.
Exactly. But what's happened is we've evolved really quickly in some areas. Physically, technologically, we have advanced so quick.
But our beliefs are still a bit...
Exactly. Our emotional and our psychological awareness, understanding, our resilience, all of that. No, we want to hold on to that. Thank you very much. When we embrace that evolution and we embrace the fact that we can understand things more, all of a sudden we do things differently. And the last 2 weeks is a prime example of people doing things differently because their understanding of the knowledge around the situation with the post office
it makes
has
sense.
now all connected.
Now, what is this? Is this something people can join, or is it a book? You just sent me a graphic. What is it?
Yeah. So the Psychological Hive is being published by Linus Books later this year. We're going through the final stages of production, and we'll be linking with video content, mini presentations, all being linked into the material. So all of that's being pieced together at the moment. Linus Books will be publishing later this year. So we're hoping for, in the next sort of 12 weeks, we've had some amazing feedback from some of the US universities, we're kind of moving towards getting it onto reading lists and things like that. So
how long have you been working on this?
The research was probably 22 years.
Wow.
And in that time, observation work was done around Coca-Cola, Disney, Amazon, Google, etc.
Because we talk about, and I'm sure you're familiar with NLP, we talk a lot about NLP on this show. Mm-hmm. And what you're articulating essentially is modeling. And I don't mean catwalk. I mean, finding someone that does something well and teaching that mental structure, that way of doing things to other people. That's modeling. With the premise that if one human being can do it, pretty much everyone can. Yeah.
And part of the elements of success is acting like the right people. And if you look at those successful organizations and you see how they interact, you see how they engage, it's very hard to say they're not the right people. We look at some of the big challenges of, the idea of think outside the box. Well, the brain, if you think of the brain as a box, it works in symmetry. It's a good idea, it's a bad idea, it's day or it's night. The brain only has a certain amount of symmetry available to it. So if we want the idea of think outside that box, then we need more boxes.
Or a vertical stretch in awareness.
And keep going and slice it and as much as you can.
You know, this is fascinating. A little bit later this year, perhaps closer to publication date, will he come on and talk about the launch and talk some more about this, Dave?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you so much. I'm just mindful of the time, but thank you for being a spontaneous guest. What a fascinating conversation this turned into being. Thank you, Dave.
And yeah, happy to help out when the space is there.
I appreciate it, and well, you're one of our regulars, and we can always pop you on at any point. But I'd love to get you on officially to talk about this a bit more in detail, because it sounds intriguing and I think very interesting to our listeners as well. So thank you, Dave. Good to talk to you.
No worries. Take care.
Cheers, my friend. Bye-bye. Oh, that was a bit of spontaneous goodness, wasn't it? I'm back on Wednesday, flying solo again on Wednesday, talking to Mike Nicholson about progressive masculinity. And Russ and the crew are going to be here. Russ and Phil and Chantal, she's going to be here on Friday. In the meantime, spin MRS Men's Radio for a Monday afternoon. All the very best to you, and we'll speak to you Wednesday. Thanks. Bye-bye.